look like I'm like uneven.
Hey guys, welcome to the Seller Sessions. So it's Monday mindset, not Sunday mindset. Little switch up today, changing down to a 4-day week, going from Monday to Thursday. I welcome back the lovely Steph, and Tiff is here for the first time. You may have heard Tiff get shouted out on a lot of the shows where she's been following the shows right through the COVID on the lives and stuff. So I thought it'd be great to bring her on the show and get her perspective on stuff. Again, we're looking at books, how books have changed these entrepreneurs' lives. So without further ado, I normally say ladies first, but we have two on the show. So as a new guest to the show, Steph's been back before. Tiffiany, do you want to give the audience an introduction on yourself?
What's up, everybody? My name is Tiffiany. I am also known as Eat Sleep Amazon in the Amazon community, and I am an Amazon seller, and I also have an Amazon services business, and I'm so honored to be here. I actually put being on this podcast on my vision board, so when Danny reached out, yes, I did actually, and I was like, what? No way. So I did. So I'm so honored. I'm such a big fan of this show and so many of the guests that you've had. So thank you so much.
You are more than welcome. Stephanie.
Hello, everyone. Amazon seller for 2 years. Big into this topic of mindset and launching yourself forward. I have been many different hats in life, whether it be a hairdresser, an entrepreneur, a W-2 corporate employee, and all of the in between. So always happy to be here. Such a huge fan of Danny's. Tiffiany, glad to have you.
Honored to be here with you.
Right. Okay. We've got the honors out of the way. I'm honored to have you guys here. Let's entertain the audience on these books. So do you want to step up first, Steph? What do you have as the first title?
So I have 2 books today that really changed my perspective on life. One is The Chaos Imperative by Ori Brofman, and the second is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, and what's the other guy's name? I don't know. He's not on the title of the book. But those 2 books really changed the way I look at living life. So those are what I'm bringing to the table today.
Excellent. And Tiff, what titles do you have for us?
I have 3 titles. I apologize. That's too many. My number 1 is Marie Forleo's Everything is Figureoutable. My second one is The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein. And the third one is a lesser known book by a gentleman. He was a professor, passed away several years ago, but the book is called The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch.
Excellent. So, Steph, first book, what we're going to go with?
Chaos Imperative.
Okay, so give us a quick synopsis before you start. What's the overview of the book?
So the whole purpose of the book is putting pockets of chaos into otherwise really organized situations to create new visions and innovation in an otherwise dull and boring environment. So it creates the opportunity for growth and new beginnings and problem solving that you wouldn't usually have. And also taking time called white space to have moments of reflection from all of the noise and all of the things that you absorb and learn all the time to actually apply it and let your brain process it in its own format by doing nothing at all. So it's just white space is just time to hang out outside, have a great time. And that is when Einstein found the theory of relativity. So it works. It's not just some nonsense. So that's the major points of the book.
So pull out some points in this book for us that where, the idea is that these books will have changed your life. And there's a moment, I imagine, in the book that you have vivid memory of what that book done to you, that given situation where the change came.
Yes. So for me, it was the biggest point was that white space part. Like all of the rest of the book was like, oh, this is cool. Oh, the knowledge is great. And yes, I do believe bringing people, unexpected characters into an environment will create innovation and growth for sure, because everyone has different perspectives and life experience. But the idea of stepping away from learning and grinding and hustling for what you want and just taking time to exist allowing your brain to hit those subconscious levels and like actually apply them to your life was huge for me, because white space is it doesn't take a week or a month or 3 or 4 hours. It can just be 15 minutes of like just sitting outside and literally doing nothing to let your brain relax and actually process some information that you've learned, to apply it to what you're looking for, or to solve issues that you didn't even know that you were looking to solve yet. So that was like the biggest point of the book for me.
So do you find now, I think when you're rushing around and doing 1,000,001 different things, you feel guilty for sitting down and taking time out, don't you?
Sure.
Because you're always telling yourself, right, I shouldn't be doing it, especially if you're self-employed and say you operate at home. Very easy to get into that pattern. I personally notice over that I might seem visible all the time, running around like a blue-ass fly, being really busy. But there are times where I might go days where I don't do as much work and I do more thinking than I do physical work. But that's only because in my mind, either you've reached a level of burnout, or you've not summarized the key things. Some things are complex that you have to think about, and they don't come to you instantly. And if you're always on the go consistently, it makes it very, very difficult to work to that next level, because end up you're doing is you go in that hamster wheel and you're busy because you're convincing yourself, don't take time out, you're lazy, you're meant to be doing this, you're not setting a good example. But I think some of the smartest people in the world and some of the richest people in the world actually do a lot less work than you actually imagine. The work that they do and the impact that they do have comes from that rest time where they can actually gather their thoughts and execute properly, and then have a team to do that.
Yeah, 1000%. And I have this feeling of guilt where if like I'm not optimizing time 24 hours a day, then I'm not achieving XYZ. And so even on my downtime, like I'm outside walking the dog, whatever, I'm still listening to some Audible or something. It's always coming in, and I can never just release and let go. So this past week, I read this book like 10 years ago. And last week I actually implemented it. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? Like 2 days a week minimum, I'm going to not work until 12 o'clock. Like I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to lay by the pool. I'm going to do whatever I want to do and then work later. And I tracked all of my progress through the week, and I had one of the best, most productive weeks of my life last week. By doing less and allowing myself to release that guilt and just like live my life the way I want to. And that's what we should do. That's why we're entrepreneurs. Like, why are we pigeonholing ourselves to work 15-hour days when the point of owning a business is to not do that exact thing? So we can learn all of this stuff all day long, but if you can't implement it because you're constantly absorbing and never releasing, then you have a bunch of knowledge with no power. So.
But where is that balance? So where is that balance between bone idle, laziness, fatigue, falling into the wrong patterns, and actually that time? Do you think it should be specified? That time is like, it's a conscious thing saying, I'm going to reduce the time for this period of time only, and then I'm going to measure the results of that. So it's discipline.
For me, it's scheduled out by hour. Like, I am one of those people who, if I don't have a very strict routine and timeline, nothing seems to get accomplished. I'm doing busy work, but nothing's really happening. I'm not moving forward. So it'll be like from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. I do social media, emails, and drink coffee. 7 a.m. I walk my dog. 8 a.m. to noon is your time. From 12:30 onward, like 12 to 5, like hardcore focus, a 5-hour period where you don't really take any breaks. You get those tasks done. Take a break, eat whatever, come back in the evening, do it again. So for me, like having that scheduled time in my workday gives that necessary forgiveness to yourself. So you're not feeling guilty. It's like, well, this was scheduled, so that's what I'm doing. It's no longer like I really should be working right now. It's like, no, you're actually working from 12 to 5. So you don't have to be doing anything. And it kind of creates that like leeway to not feel bad.
What other parts of the books should people think about that is standout of that same book?
That same book, if you have a team and a culture of human beings. And we all try and hire like the best possible person for the least amount of money. Like we all do that. That's what business is. You don't want to overpay, and you don't want to really have to teach someone every single thing. I would say for all of those people who maybe wouldn't usually take a chance on an oddball, think about that. Think about bringing in people from different backgrounds, because you might be really surprised at what you get out of those people in an environment that they wouldn't usually be in, because they bring a new perspective. And they might be like the receiving end of a situation in your business where they can bring a consumer point or a pain point that you wouldn't have thought of yet. So that was the other part of the book. It's like they brought janitors into a corporate meeting. And they were like, hey, well, this, that, and this happens, so maybe it should be addressed. And it changes the whole structure of a business. So it's just something to think about when hiring teams of people, is to kind of steer clear of the checklist that you have in your head.
Tiff, do you have any questions on this book for Steph?
I love that idea. I love that idea of, so it sounds like with the book, they want you to have sort of like what you would consider like downtime, where you are not consciously like trying to like be productive. Wow.
That's the most productive.
Yeah. So what do they have, like certain recommendations for things that you do during that time, or like you don't do, like you say, like, okay, let me put my phone away, let me put my laptop away, like?
It's like if there's a whole section of the book, chapter 3 is all on Einstein. And he found the theory of relativity like hanging out outside, like stoned with his friends, like laying around outside. Like that's all he was doing. And like it was like, boom, got it. Like it's when you're the least conscious of your actions that those things flow through, because you give your brain the ability to go from your logical brain to your subconscious brain, which kind of flows right into the Breaking the Habit of Beating Yourself book. But it's that whole thing of like releasing that barrier. So it's,
I
do
love
nothing. Like do whatever you want to be doing.
Cool. So should we move over, Tiff? Let us know what's the first book up for you.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a huge Marie Forleo fan. That woman has changed my life in so many ways. So I chose her book that came out, her first and only book that came out last year. It's called Everything is Figure-Outable. And the premise of the book is that everything, as the title says, is figure-outable in life and in business and in general. There's always solutions that you can come up with to sort of figure out, where it is that you want to be in life and how to get there. So a few of the things that I really love about that book, number one, I just love Marie Forleo is like a super passionate person. Like she only puts out like good energy, good vibes, and like everything that she does, she puts her own little characteristic spin on it. And, she's not copying other people. And she's just like super passionate. And I love that because a lot of that just resonates with me. So one of the things that she talks about in the book, like every chapter, it's got like a certain topic, and she talks about, I took notes here. She talks about basically, and I recommend honestly, if you can get like the paper book and then also do the audio, because the audio is in her voice. And so you just get her personality behind it. But she talks about that in life and in business in general, like the place where you're going to flourish the most and make the most progress is just being in your growth zone. So like when you are discomfortable, when you're insecure, like when you're scared to do stuff, like those are the things that you need to be doing. You need to.
Can I ask you a quick question? I don't want to put you off. I know you're in mid-flow. What you just there, like you talked about being scared or fearful. Is there anything in that book that you done that you was fearful of, but you done it anyway because of that book?
Yeah, pretty much everything I've done this year, I was scared of, like I started another business this year, like an Amazon services business, which in this industry, there's a lot of shady services and there's a lot of taboo around it. But, Marie Forleo, I took her B-School program, actually over this summer. And that's kind of what inspired me because, I've been following her for many years now, and she's just so passionate about what she does. And, she looks at business in general as a service. Like you are providing services to people, you are helping people, like it's heart-based, and you're not focusing on the money, you're focusing on who you can help. And that's what I've done. That's what I've done my whole time. Like I don't I don't focus on the money. I focus on what is the intention and the purpose behind it. And it's not led me wrong so far.
It won't. You won't get the short money. I'll promise you that. But if you follow your heart and focus on the customer first, like Amazon does, but in a different way in terms of services, and have a reason and a meaning for it, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and one thing that she says is that you always need to start something before you're ready. Because for many years, a lot of people tell me now that they know me, they're like, oh, you're fearless and you're so passionate. But I was not always like that. Like I grew up being like a very scared child because I come from like a family that it's like, oh, be careful. And oh, don't make mistakes. And it's kind of like I had this mindset where everything has to be perfect before I get it started. And one of the things that she says is that basically progress, not perfection. Like you don't have to get it perfect. You just have to get it going.
Yeah.
And all of those things really have helped me. And I feel like they help others. Like when I have people that reach out to me, and they want to start an Amazon business or they want to like just move forward in their life in an area. These are kind of messages that I help like pass on to them because there's a lot of fear a lot of times in people's lives. And that sort of paralyzes them, from taking risks or taking chances or just getting anything started in general. Yeah.
Steph, what makes you fearful?
Rejection, failure, all the same things that makes most of us fearful.
I'll let you a little secret there, just a little secret. Every fucker goes through that. Everyone, as much as they lie, it don't matter what you put up on the gram, all these quotes.
I don't care.
Everyone on the planet will go through the same things.
There would be no such thing as plastic surgery if we didn't fear rejection. That's for sure.
I think everyone goes through that, but it's how you handle it. What's it they say is 90% is how you. No, is it 10% is what happens, and 90% is how you react.
How you respond. Yeah. So, I don't really fear much anymore, though. I mean, I just keep like throwing myself into things that I'm like, this could go really bad. And whatever, I'm still going to be a living, breathing being after. So like, it's not that big of a deal.
Well, as long as it's not you throw yourself out of a plane and forgot to take a parachute with you.
Yeah, don't forget
that's pretty final, isn't it?
I would totally do that too.
That's the thing. You won't get me up a ladder or out of a plane. I don't care how much money I could sit here and say, I'll do this and I'll go and launch this business. I'll take this risk, that risk. You will not get me out of a fucking plane. It don't matter how much money it is. There is no, like Catherine. Look, Catherine's saying true. I'm a witness. You will not get me up a ladder or out of a plane. It just won't happen. It'll never happen. And it's not that I'm fearful. Well, I am fearful because it's just not going to happen. But there are certain things, there's a line. And I draw a tight line on that. I'm a bit of a wimp when it comes to heights, for sure.
Mine is motorcycles. That's the one thing I won't mess with. I know that I'm a daredevil. I love adrenaline. And I bob and weave with an SUV. So like,
oh my gosh.
I will die for sure. Like I'm not touching it.
Right. Where are we? We were just gone off on the look.
On the fear,
saying I'm a big chicken. That's true. I am a big chicken.
That's hysterical.
So Tiff, wrap that book. What's the final synopsis there?
The final synopsis, basically, she just says progress, not perfection, and just refuse to be refused. So like, Stephanie was saying with rejection is a big fear of mine too. Yeah. And I think it is for a lot of people. And one of the big takeaways from the book is just like, you're going to get rejection and you're going to have failures, but like you have to have this perseverance and this grit in your mind where you're just going to bust through and whatever comes your way, like you're going to figure it out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Steph, book number 2.
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Okay.
So this came to me because I was just like one lost puppy. I just had a big mouth and like no filter, and things were just going wrong all the time. And I was like, I think it's me. So this landed in my lap. Overall, the one line from the book that stuck with me that I never forgot was, neurons that fire together wire together. And the more that you behave in a certain way and respond in a certain way and have certain beliefs, the more those neurons become automatic, and your whole life starts to revolve around that. What you see, your outer world, everything that happens to you instead of for you is a result of the way that you think and the way that you react.
Yeah.
So that is like the whole point of the book, is breaking those things apart and being better and changing what you think is reality and creating your own, because all that your reality really is behaviors of your past, whatever damage that is, that you've been telling yourself in a loop your whole life.
The thing is, your thoughts are a perception, aren't they? So what we're doing now, me and you, what the three of us are talking, right? This is being present, like having presence here. We're present. What happens before and what happens after, there, you know, you have memories of stuff from the past, or vivid memories, and then you've got the future, which hasn't been created. Now you're a victim of your own thoughts. So if you decide that I'm going to be unhappy every day, you become miserable. And then physically, that also has an impact on you. That affects your energy, follows suit and stuff. So what I think is, I can't remember the name of the book, but I'll dig it out another time, is like, you are what you think. There's a load of books out there. And I think it's a habit that we create, is that when you had those voices, like the negative thinking and stuff like that, it's a consistent thing. But you can actually say to yourself, that's either it's not real, or go back to being in the present. Do you see what I mean? Have you seen where people, they're chewing on a pen, or they're doing something and they're deep in thought, and it might be that they've had a fallout with someone and they go, I'm going to say this and they're going to say this and this is what's going to happen. And you get there the next day and when everyone laughs and it's not real. So I think people create a distorted reality through their thoughts, which will 9 times out of 10, none of this stuff will happen, which then leads to long-term sickness and everything for people if it becomes, you know, too big.
For sure. And even your memories are distorted. Those aren't actually what happened. It's just what you felt during that memory. That it's not even what happened. I have that conversation with my cousins all the time. We'll have the same conversation about the same memory, and I'll think something completely different happened. And they're like, no.
Because you felt that situation was different.
It's
not
crazy.
That it was. The only way of proving it is having the video. If you have a recording that you can play back.
Thank God on your didn't have back then.
Yeah. So sometimes it's good to have the footage, and sometimes it's not. Depends. So tell me a bit more about the book.
Okay, so this book is massive, and I need to, honest to God, reread it again, because it's been so many years and I've had it on my shelf collecting dust for a long time. But that one sentence was the thing that really was like, yes, break your habits, do exactly what you don't want to do in almost every situation to change who you are, because who I was wasn't good enough for where I'm going. And that's just evolving with who you want to be. So a lot of it has to do with, you know, however you're feeling in a moment, like take a step back and think about that. Think about why, and then change it.
Was it for you because there was a lot of stuff that was happening and there was a pattern there, but it made you feel unhappy? So you had to change it because you're going, well, hold on, there's a pattern here. This isn't making me happy. Therefore, it's me who needs to make the change, which is self-awareness. I had a huge battle with depression and anxiety through my teens and 20s. And it was kind of a snowball effect of like, you know, can't figure out who I am or what I want to be, and I can't keep a job, and blah, 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 blah. Just a whole bunch of stuff. And I started out with Emotional Intelligence 2.0. That was the first book that like really laid it down. And I like took this quiz or whatever in the back of it, and I was like, wow, I got a 60% in like relationship management. This is like a huge problem. So then this book came close after, and I started reading it, and I was like, oh, like I'm just lugging around all this sadness and baggage and nonsense from my history and dragging it through the rest of my life. And so it really came down to like exercising and doing healthier things, not drinking and partying and smoking cigarettes and what. It's like I had to change everything about myself one piece at a time. And I'm now 33 years old and I'm still doing it. It's been like 15 years of self-development, right? It's like there's no end date. But you know, the more you fake it,
in the beginning, when you're like, ugh, I'm doing this thing and it's like not even how I really feel, and you just keep doing it, eventually you become all those things. So it was really breaking down my habit patterns and my go-to feelings and arguing with them internally. And that was where this book took me. And it's really incredible because when you give yourself that wiggle room to explore why you act these ways and how you can change them, you know, as you exercise and you do healthy things for your body, your brain starts to respond, and it's a whole loop of like thinking, feeling, doing, thinking, feeling, doing. And it's like goes together. And when I introduced yoga into my life, those moments of like really hard work and then complete relaxation allows you to go from a beta brain to an alpha brain and explore all of those things that are in your subconscious and bring them to light. And that's where like creativity and growth happens. So this book is like the perfect layout for learning why and then how to apply it.
Tiff, any questions on this book?
I love that book. I almost actually chose that book for this show. What would you say, Stephanie, was like one of the biggest ways that you were able to train your brain to think differently?
The first step for me was admitting what and who I was.
Okay.
Like you have to be able to break yourself apart and accept those criticisms to be able to leave them behind and be something else.
Yeah.
So that was like number one for me. It was just like taking a hard look in the mirror and not feeling bad about it. Just being like, well, your history has a lot to do with that. I'm not going to sit here and like blame my parents or anything weird, but like, you know, you just have to look in the mirror and go, it's you.
Right.
And you have the right to evolve anytime you want to.
Right.
And just go for it.
I have a saying as well is that you are, you know, wherever you land, that's you have made thousands or hundreds of thousands micro decisions. You got yourself there. And it's them micro decisions that have a compounding effect to take you where you are. The only way to get away from where you are, if you feel that you've landed in the wrong place and life served you a bad card, think about all the decision making that you did and take ownership and accountability of those things and look inside. You have to deal with those things. You know, there's things I've made shit tons of mistakes. Like I always say, I failed my way to success. I found just about every way not to run a business. And it's taken to my 40s to really learn that and actually think more about decisions. Like there are times now I take days to think over decisions on certain things because I think not what it affects today, but what is tomorrow like and what is 5-10 years from now. And that's why I always say you land where you are because of the micro decisions that you had. So just to give a final synopsis on the book or a rundown, why should people read that book in your opinion?
Because everyone can use self-improvement, no matter how great you think you are. Like there's always time to look inside and change a couple things. So
sounds good.
Yeah.
Cool. Tiff, book number 2 or 3, is it? I'm losing.
I had 2. I'll touch on The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein. Overall for that one, it's basically just trusting, you know, whether you're a spiritual person or not, just trusting your path and your journey in life. And also kind of, you know, in relation to breaking the habit of being yourself, the book focuses a lot on your mindset and your thoughts. And, you know, like if you are trying to make like decisions in life or things like that, like just asking, you know, whether you believe in a higher power or your intuition, whatever, just asking for guidance and sort of trusting little things like your intuition more, and not just, you know, looking externally, but sometimes going internally. So it talks a lot about yoga and meditation. You know, Gabby Bernstein overall is just a wonderful businesswoman. And I've used a lot of what she teaches as far as for like copywriting and just like when you are providing things to the public, you know, not so much on trying to sell them, but trying to focus on what she calls the message behind your, the mission behind your message. And I really love that. So yeah, that's just my little synopsis of that book.
Cool. Steph, you got one more to go?
I don't, but I feel like since I brought it up, emotional intelligence 2.0 for anyone who's really lost.
I want to learn about that.
Dude, it's so like, here you are, like, like you can do what you want with it. But it's really cool because it really like breaks down where you need to work on certain areas of your life most. Like mine was relationship management with like other people. Like clearly I had issues. And you know, you retake that test later and it's like, I didn't even have to like follow through. I just needed to know where I was failing.
Yeah.
And I kind of just took off running from there. But it is really, really good. I mean, I don't know. I'm really into that stuff though.
I'll go with this one then. So I'm still flicking through it at the moment, but The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani. And basically there are, just find out where it is, just trying to bring up some of the synopsis, just bring up the chapters. So the book's breaking into the 3 sections. So part 1, living into the culture escape. Part 2, the awakening, the power to choose your version of the world. And in part 3, recoding yourself, transforming your inner world. So effectively, it's like you look at the rules of life. You know, I think Steve Jobs said it. It's like you're not just here to not bump into the walls of the universe. You might as well be here. You might as well be doing stuff and etc. Like doing stuff that's meaningful. And then there's a bit in there. It says question. They calls it rules, which is bullshit rules. Yeah. So where we learn as much as the world runs is based on bullshit rules passed down from generation to generation. But what the really good part of it is, like, as you get to the tail end of the book, there's a section called Unfuckwittable. And what that means is that you go beyond anything where it becomes untouched, you know, in a sense that regardless, criticisms and all those kind of things. And what they do is in there is that you forgive others and you forgive yourself. You know, I think what people carry around a lot of time is grudges. So you can have a grudge and you don't even realize that you could be carrying that grudge. But if you focus on forgiveness, because does it really matter? Do you need to have a power play? Does that make sense? Do you have to be right? I always say you're better off being kind over right. Do you see what I mean? Sometimes, or a lot of times, you just let stuff go because it's not worthwhile. It's the difference when it's a massive impact on your business and someone says, I want to spend 50K. And you're like, no, you're pissing money down the drain. That's a different thing. But when it comes to human interactions and everything else, you know, we're going to be topsoil in a few years' time. We're like this small little spike in the atmosphere, right? So we're not here for a long time. We might as well be here for a good time. We might as well do stuff that's meaningful. And again, it comes down to money as well. It's like, do you want to be the richest arsehole in the graveyard? Do you know, here lies an arsehole. And what are they? And what credits are people going to read out at your funeral?
Yeah.
You know, he had a lot of money in his bank, or she had a lot of money in his bank, or they're going to talk about the character of the person. But through life, you've obviously got to go through where everything's got to be managed in balance. And so if you can get to the stage where, I think he calls it blissfulness or whatever, there's quite a hippie in places in the book. But the idea behind it is simply not worrying about things. And if you don't worry about things, you actually get to live a better life. Because I think people spend most of the time worrying until they get to their destination, where you should be enjoying the journey. Because if you don't enjoy the journey,
absolutely,
you know, when you get to the end, like, you know, that the people that have got, you know, they go and work for 60 years, get a watch at the end, and then the end of their life, right? So they'll sit in an armchair and they'll preserve their money that they got from their savings.
Just working to die.
Working to die. And it's just, so but along that way, you're gonna meet tough challenges and stuff like that. So I think the key idea behind that book is to get to that next level is to forgive others and forgive yourself. Don't let hold on to that.
That goes back to the ego. Like, it all goes back to self-reflection. Because if you don't look in the mirror and go, none of this is really a big deal, like, be beyond your reactions, then you can never hit bliss. Because you're always going to hold on to what people think of you. And coming from someone who had to build relationship management skills, like, I've made so many enemies in my lifetime, sometimes completely unwarranted. Like, I'm just one of those people who, like, always has some person who's got a problem. And I'm like, whatever. Like, you just can't care for that long.
Yeah.
You're going to bury yourself in angst and sadness if you are too busy caring about other people's problems and their perception of you.
Totally.
Yeah. And the other thing is obviously the people around you. You know, like your body, like every day you run on a battery like a mobile phone. There's only so much energy you've got in a day, and it's so important that you have the right relationship, friendships, family. All these things play a massive role in energy. Your clients, your customers, your friends, your families, your co-workers, your industry peers, everything like that. When you look it all together, there's only so much bandwidth you have left in a day. And then what you got to do is go, right, where do I channel this energy before it goes down to red and I have to go back to bed, and then I wake up the next day and it goes up to 100%
and
again.
Who's in this list that's sucking extra amounts of it out?
Exactly.
Totally.
I've cut off contact with my own mother before. I mean, it only lasted like a month, but she was being a real pain in the ass at the time. And I was like, I can't talk to you. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, family, friend, or otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you just gotta.
Well, and this is what comes back to is I'm going to do a show on this. I've got a big thing that I've done, like very detailed. I'd like to go over, so I won't spoil the guts of it. But what you've got to come back to is that your well-being is key, right? And sometimes you have to be a tiny bit selfish. And if you've got people that are energy vampires that are draining you in your life, unfortunately, it's a negative impact. Them staying in your life will mean that you have an unhappy existence in those interactions.
Absolutely.
So if you want to be able to do, okay, let me give an example. We've got plenty of women in our industry that, they're bringing up their children, they're entrepreneurs and everything else. Imagine, like, I've got a friend that has a child with special needs. Right. So she's got even more impact on her. She's got a child with special needs. If she has to deal with an arsehole that always take all day long, that drains her battery. So she can't spend time on a child with special needs. What's most important?
Absolutely. The child with special needs and your own self-sanity for that kid's future.
Yeah. Self-care. Yeah. You have to have self-care.
So what I think we forget about as entrepreneurs is that we are frivolous with our time, yet we'll watch the money, we'll look at our return on investments, and we'll speculate to accumulate. Why don't we do that with our energy? Why don't we do that with the people around us in a pleasant way?
Because we are not raised and trained to even think like that. We are raised to suck it up for the most part. And for those people who have someone in their life that they literally can't get rid of, like, because everyone has a couple people where you're like, well, I'm kind of stuck with you. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's still boundaries that you can set and examples that you can bring up where you change that relationship and change the boundaries of that person.
I've got, like what you just saying now, I'm going to do a show on it at some point. I've been making notes on it, but I've got a whole body of work there that covers every scenario, because obviously you have to do this stuff with compassion as well. But I'm going to break down every type of relationship there is out there, how to integrate, or how you could integrate with it, how to do these things compassionately, how to get those wins back. And because if you get that right, your business life falls into place anyway, and you're preserving that energy to deliver on the business side. But like we talk about, there's no work-life balance. I don't believe there is. We've discussed it loads of time. But you have to have relationship balance. No one can have one more power than the other. Does that make sense? Because that's an imbalance. And
and then that goes back to this whole ego thing all over again. It's like surround as many people that you can have in your world that understand building and self-development and all of those things, the better, because you need those people to outweigh the people who just can't get it. So it's like, you just need, if you're going to have both, have the people that understand self-development and how much work that takes, and being selfless and loving. Like, our community is so incredible because we just have a bunch of people who all think the same way and all want to be better humans.
But then the vampires can suck from that as well.
Right.
Because,
right.
Yeah, but we always find them, and then they're kind of like not
you know,
invited to anything.
You know what they say, misery loves company, don't you? So you have to give like the miseries, go over there with the other miseries. But
right, you get your own island.
Get your own island, so yeah, you can kill each other.
Do you guys
go on.
Do you guys follow the Holistic Psychologist?
No.
She's amazing. I highly recommend following her. She's really big on Instagram. She makes some YouTube content too, but Instagram's her main thing. But she's real big on talking about the ego and boundaries and just, you know, whether it's professional or personal relationships, having those boundaries. And like, she's one that, you know, Steph, you were talking about, you've had moments where you didn't talk to your mom. I mean, I have family members I don't talk to. I have people that I no longer speak to because the energy is just draining and negative and it's not supportive. And that's what she talks a lot about is like, you know, like she's talked about how she's had to cut out people in her family just because the boundaries issue, you know, and you have to, like Steph was saying, you know, focus on surrounding yourself around people with a growth mindset and with certain, like, okay, you know, they know what personal development is, they know what self-development is. Because I've realized that a lot of people, you can explain it to them, but their mind is not there, so they can't go there with you. So it's like your own journey, and then you just have to go on your own journey, and then, you know, you can maybe have a relationship with them, but the dynamics are different, you know, and you have to put boundaries because, you know, like Danny was saying, the energy will be sucked.
Yeah. And on top of that, some of those people, like, they were the person you needed at a certain time.
Totally.
You know, and now you've outgrown them as a friend or a coworker or whatever. And it's like, I kind of have to break up with you now because it no longer serves me to like give you a huge chunk of my time or my life.
I was talking to somebody, you know, that has been on the show a few times, and I adore this person. And I was talking to them about how, you know, one thing that they said was when you start getting certain levels of success or personal growth or whatever, you know, a lot of your old friends don't support you. And I've noticed that, like, people don't comment on my posts. They don't follow me on social. They don't support my accomplishments. And so it's very disheartening. But it's kind of like, okay, I realize like where I'm going and where they are is not the same place. You know what I'm saying? And I can't let that lack of support and negativity like penetrate me.
There's also people out there that will dress up as your friends.
Oh, totally.
And they have no more intention other than to take you down, to drain your traits and then take you down. There's some, you know, especially borderlines and stuff.
Use you for however they can use you, and then
exactly.
You know.
Exactly. And it comes back to the whole boundary things. But when you think about narcissists, borderlines, covert narcissists, you know, malignant, there's so many on the B spectrum out there, and you'd be surprised how many of them are out there, because I think they say 1 in 10 has like those kind of disorders on those spectrums to various degrees. But if you imagine what, you know, a competitive industry, like you think in politics, in sports, and because obviously narcissism is about power and all that kind of stuff, so it attracts some sports stars, music, entrepreneurs, you know, it's just, there's loads of them out there, and it's just like, how do you navigate the waters and the balance and the manipulations and all those things? You just have to keep a real keen eye on stuff. And when it comes to boundaries,
you said earlier, we were talking, there was like a brief moment, and I wanted to touch on it, and then I forgot because I have ADD.
Same here. I can't remember.
What the hell did you say? It had something to do with basically intuition, like and like feeling and like, so like you know the people when you meet them, when you talk to, and you want to believe what comes out of their face, but you know better, and you don't even know why you know better. You just do. Always
trust in the gut.
Listen
trust in the gut.
to that sixth sense, because it's telling you what you can't process.
Exactly. And you know, when you can't kind of work out what's going on, right? So your gut feels it, but you don't understand what's going on, is because manipulators play with the senses. So what they're doing is your gut's going, this is a bit odd, but your sensory system, they'll maybe it's charm or whatever. It's like,
so you're just like, I really like you, but I don't trust you.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I wouldn't take you home to my mother, but I might have a beer with you down the pub. Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, but
See, I'm like not even able to have a beer or a glass of wine. I'm like, I want nothing, like complete, because I absorb energy, like I'm an empath. And so I have to literally like say like, okay, like no, like block.
Yeah. No, exactly. And
I'm definitely not an empath, but I'm a terrible bullshitter. Like everything I think is right here. Like there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, I have no poker face either. No.
Cool. Anyway, so we went off on a rant there, didn't we, after the books? But I think it's still mindset. It's part of the mindset. But yeah,
it all goes together.
Yeah. It's true.
I do have a big episode coming up on that, very detailed in all the different scenarios, because I mean we spoiled it a bit now because we gave some of the highlights, but it would be really good to give people a breakdown blow by blow to let them think about, well, okay, how do I deal with that? You know, what about if it's your partner, your spouse? What is it if it is your parents? What if it's your cousins?
What if it's your kid?
What it is your kids? There's so many things, and it's like, well, how do you handle each of those situations? So I want to go through some scenarios of how you could handle it, you know, and be compassionate and stuff like that. Because there's different, well, it's different ways of dealing with it. Because sometimes you just have to shut down. Sometimes you go no contact. Yeah. Sometimes you go grey rock if it's the narcissist. There are so many different things that you have to think about. I mean, again, giving it away, I sit there, and you probably get the same there, like you said about bullshitters and that. I actually see the move, and I don't always pull them on the move. Like Tiff just says, like she's an empath, right? So she's like, go away, don't want to, you know, she'll run a mile because
I've learned to call them out now. I mean, I'll call them out on their BS, but then I'm like, block.
Well, you got to be careful though, because this industry, you're going to see them again. Like you can't. You know what I mean, you kind of got to be like, I see you, just so you know.
So you know, sometimes you don't have to say anything, like, because ultimately through life you're going to have to deal with all different types of people, right?
Totally.
So you can go to war with all these different people, but it goes back to sucking your energy, right? Or what you can do is you can go, I see that move there, and then all you do is set a boundary. Job done. Get on. You don't have to get involved. You don't have to do it. If you set a boundary,
you don't have to react at all.
Totally. That's so true. And I think a lot of people miss that. They think there has to be a reaction for everything, but
there hasn't. No.
Yeah, there doesn't.
I have a quote that I've had to remind myself of for years, and it's not every action needs a reaction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can just sit there and look at it.
Yeah. But so it goes back to the thing is, if you can see the move, you see what's coming, you can see the intentions behind it, you don't have to bring it to the surface. You swerve it, you maneuver out of the way. It's a block, isn't it? You don't have to go on the attack. It can just be, okay, I see that, there's the boundary, boom, move.
You know who's a professional at this? Kata.
Yeah, I know. Aww. I know Kata is. Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah.
She's a master.
Indeed
That's
she
awesome.
Is. Right, so should we wrap there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Any parting words from you, Steph?
Yes. Never feel so big that you can't do self-reflection. And there's always room for growth.
Yeah. Tiff?
I love that. I would just say always treat each day like it could be your last, and remember that you're dealing with real people, and they have real emotions and real needs and wants, and also just realize that you need to establish boundaries sometimes.
Yeah, no, same. And again, I would say don't have to react to everything. Forgive others, forgive yourself. Don't always have to be right, and sometimes just being kind is enough.
Absolutely.
Right, should we go? Actually, let me just quickly, I haven't read out any of the comments. Let's hold on for the comments.
I haven't seen the comments at all. I feel terrible.
Catherine says, so cool, Tiff, from earlier on in the show. Good afternoon, guys. Sai. Kata says, and Stephanie is overall wonderful. True, I'm a witness, going back to me not wanting to jump out of flights. And then she called me a chicken. Then Sai B says, you hit the nail square on the head. Forgiveness, phrase of the day, unfuckable.
I love it.
Kat says, energy sucks, literally. Matt says, hi guys, Matt P here, glad to see you're better. Tiff. Kat says skin muscle. I think that relates to boundaries and everything else. Jacob Topping, how you doing, brother? I haven't seen you for a while. Awesome show. And then Matt Parker says, Dan, if I'm a knob, I'm sure you'll tell me, and that's what keeps me in check. This is why I consider you a mate. Always appreciate the true feedback. You are more than welcome, and you're far from a knob, my good friend. And but you know, we all have our moments, don't we? We can't always be our best, but we're not perfect. But who knows? What's the next steps? Should we sign off?
Sure.
I love it.
Let's get out of here.
Well, actually, Tiff, how can people reach you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, you can reach me on Instagram at Eat Sleep Amazon, or you can find my Facebook group, Eat Sleep Amazon Facebook group, or find me on Facebook, Tiffiany Hepburn. And, you know, I'm usually watching the seller sessions, so you'll see me in the comments.
Cool. Welcome to your first show here.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Oh, yay.
Okay. Catherine says, love you guys. You keep me going. Andrew, it says, thank you and peaceful. Steph, what is the best way that people can reach you?
Instagram at Steph Khalikyar, or on Facebook, Stephanie Khalikyar. Anytime, always around, or in the Titan Network. If you're one of the Titans, I'm always active in there also. So
cool. Great. Guys,
yeah.
I'll be back here 4 p.m. tomorrow, BST time. Thank you for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Stay safe, look after your family, take